On March 9th, during Conestoga's Career Days, the school had a special visit from a JeffSTAT paramedic helicopter for the Emergency Medical Services career presentation. The helicopter circled the school for several minutes and eventually landed on one of the school's practice fields with dozens of students and teachers watching. After the landing, everyone was able to get up close to the helicopter and ask the crew questions about their daily job.
How often do you go up in this?
Usually once or twice a shift. So we have 12-hour shifts. One flight normally lasts about 3 to 4 hours, so from start to finish. So usually 1 or 2 a shift.
Really, that often?
In this area, it's different. It's actually the most saturated in the country. There are about like 25 helicopters within a 50-mile radius of medical helicopters within a 50-mile radius of Philly. Philly is a unique kind of marketplace for healthcare with Penn and Temple and Jefferson. There's really nowhere like it in the world, actually. So that's most of the reason.
Wow, that's very cool.
JeffSTAT is a medical transportation service owned and operated by Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. In addition to transportation, they offer educational services such as paramedic and EMT training. The JeffSTAT team was extremely friendly and spent the rest of the time talking directly with students and teachers.
Right. I didn't have a GPS when we first started. All I had was an MAPS. That's it. You pull the maps out and you follow it along on your finger. Here, this is what's called an E6B. It's called a flight computer. Okay? It's like a round slide rule. When we're in the military, you had to be on time, on target, plus or minus 30 seconds, plus or minus 50 feet. Okay? So, you could fly for an hour and a half, but you better be on that target in plus or minus 30 seconds when you land. And you had all that. You had your map and you had your time written down on everything that you had to do. Calculated with something like this.
Two of the crew members discussed why they feel it is important for high school students to have exposure to this field of work.
I feel it's important because one is you know, as you're going through your high school career, there's different changes, and this shows an impact of where, for me personally, I started my career in the medical profession as a lifeguard, and then I grew into becoming an emergency medical technician. Next step, naturally, in that progression is a paramedic, and which led me now is to a business background with a business degree. And what this does is you're taking the dynamic for the students to see of a pilot, which is needed, a nurse, and a paramedic that's part of our duty crew, and giving them real access to see what the background was to get to these types of positions. Obviously, our pilot on today didn't start flying airplanes or helicopters just a few days ago. His background is actually in the Army, and a lot of student questions are really being focused on how he decided on the Army and what took him that aviation route. And Robert and I are getting a lot of questions on, you know, where were we in high school and how do we get to the decision to become paramedics? More importantly, how did you wind up in the aviation world versus working the 911 ambulance that you may see going up and down Lancaster Avenue, and you may see at Paley Hospital.
I think that the other important thing is the longevity of this approach and what it takes. So this is, for almost anyone here, this is a career that is 10 years in the making. So we may have started out like John did as a lifeguard. I was also a lifeguard, and just kind of it matriculates into this big process, with this being the culmination of an EMS career, working in a critical care EMS environment, and that takes work from high school till now, 10 years worth of work for most of us to get here. So it's important to kind of set your goals early and work towards them as you progress in terms of longevity and ultimate career goals.
The students and faculty greatly enjoyed the visit from the JeffSTAT team and hope to see them return next year. Hopefully the presentation inspired students to consider the field for a career.